Welcome back. It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Today, we're going to discuss how esports teams choose what games they field. One of the questions I get asked quite often is, how does an esports team and esports organization decide what games they're going to field? Most top professional gaming organizations that are team based field multiple games. You get one every once in a while that's only in like one game, but for the most part, we generally field a lot of different games and have diversity in that respect. And people are always asking me, how do you pick your games? So I decided to toss together a quick video for people that are curious, so we can just kind of go over some of the factors that are involved. I want to stress everybody has their own playbook for this, and it's much more an art form than it is a science. So the CEOs from other teams might not even agree with all of the pillars that I have here, but I think they're pretty basic and they probably would. So let's take a look. How do esports teams select their games? There's different factors we're going to go, and this is just a basic rundown. First, ROI. Show me the money. At the highest level of esports, we are running businesses. We don't get into games because, oh, that's my favorite video game, or a bunch of friends think that we should be in the game. We are running businesses. We have fiduciary duties to boards, to owners, to investors, whatever that might be. Every game, first, you need to do a mathematic breakdown. The cost of being in the game versus the reward or return on investment. You have to add up what would the player salaries be. Some games are very expensive, like League and Counter-Strike. Other games aren't as expensive for player salaries. You also have to factor in the support staff. Most top organizations want to make sure their players in the division is handled properly. So whether you can use the staff you already have in place to double dip and work on different games, or whether you need to hire a new manager, a new coach, a new sports psychiatrist, whatever that might be, you have to do that math. You also have to factor in how much travel will cost when you're flying multiple people around the world, paying for plane tickets and ground transportation and hotels. That can add up very quickly. And if you don't do your math and do your financial breakdowns and estimates, can bite you in the rear end. And also training costs. Do you have enough room at your headquarters? Will they be playing from home? All these things have to be built in so you understand or have a basic understanding of how much the game is going to cost you. Also important on the financial side of things is sponsor demand. Every once in a while, we'll have a sponsor come to us and be like, hey, we love what you guys are doing, but we really wish you were in, name a game. Or we've already been activating with this game developer and we've already been investing our marketing dollars into this game. We're interested in working with you, but it would really help get the deal done if you were in this game. So again, you have a financial breakdown. How much reward is that sponsor bringing to the table? For how much cost would it cost the organization to get involved? On the business side, and I'm sorry, this will probably disappoint a lot of gamers, show me the money is the first thing you look at. And if it's not, you probably shouldn't be in esports management. Let's look at number 2, the game developer. As everyone knows in esports, in football or soccer or basketball, no one owns the ball. But in esports, someone owns the proverbial ball. You must deal with the developer. So before you decide to invest in a developer's game, you must do kind of a breakdown and an analysis and study the actual developer. Is it a reliable developer, or is it maybe a flash in the pan, a one-hit wonder? If they've been around for a while, are they reasonable? Are they easy to work with? Or do they kind of have a pretty mixed reputation in the community for just not being worth it? Do they have a history of success? Like Valve in some of their games for years and years been successful. Riot, obviously. Blizzard, obviously. What is their history and is it successful? Do they back their games? Do they update their games? Do they support their games? Do they support their communities? Do they run leagues? Do they fund tournaments with external tournament organizers? What is their history and what is their history of success on the developer side? You also always want to do a mathematical breakdown if you think they have plans for franchising. Recently, franchising has become one of the new waves over the past few years. Blizzard's Overwatch, Riot's permanent partnerships with League of Legends, so on and so forth. So if you're getting into a game that you suspect might franchise later, you have to ask yourself, hey, if they come knocking on my door for 8, 10, 20, 30 million dollars, am I going to have the wherewithal? Am I going to have the investment capital to be able to stay in this game? And if the answer is no, maybe I just avoid that game all out. So I don't just go a year, 2, 3 years, and I've got a lot of foothold in this marketplace for this game, and then they franchise, and I have to give my team up to somebody with more finances. So if there's plans for franchising, that definitely needs to be taken into account. Number 3, the game's DNA. See, now we're finally getting to the gamer part. Is it a good game? Does it have what I call legs for the future? Meaning, is it a good enough game to survive the nonstop onslaught of competitive games that are coming out? We're blessed in this community to have lots and lots of games always coming out. And some of them, it's all the rage right away, but then 6-9 months later, everyone's kind of forgotten about it and moved on. You don't want to spend money into a game that's going to be a flash in the pan. Also in the game's DNA, is the community strong? And metrics matter is what I wrote here. If it's got a huge global community, a huge community in your region, that is a reason to get into a game. Because when you're marketing for sponsors, when you're trying to grow your market share as a team, you're trying to spread your brand, you're trying to sell merchandise, you're trying to grow your social metrics, the bigger the community for the game, the better the reason to support and invest in the game. If it's a brand new game and it's got a tiny little niche community, it's hard to justify spending a lot of money on it. But if it looks poised for exponential growth, where this game could really pop off and be gigantic, then it's something you need to take into consideration. I remember when League of Legends was brand new, everyone was, for the most part, looking at StarCraft 2, and look where League of Legends, eventually led. And you have to try to the best of your ability, again, more of an art form than a science, estimate if the community size could get to the point eventually where it would be worth the investment capital. Also, the game's DNA, you want to look at your sponsorship and partners, your relationships with them, your brand's kind of goals for marketing yourself and what you're about. And that's when the game's DNA comes family friendly or mature rated. Rocket League, super family friendly, Madden, FIFA, right? And then you get into some of the more mature rated games, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, there's blood, there's bombs, there's headshots, there's guns, and it can be politically sensitive. So you have to make sure you're evaluating all those different aspects to make sure that you're fully educated about the game's DNA. Number 4 out of 5, by the way, the team's DNA. What is your organization's DNA? Does it generally fit into your DNA? Some organizations are really focused on MOBAs. Some are focused on RTS or FPS, right? And if you've got 3 shooter games that you've been running for a few years, and then an online mobile card game comes, is that really part of your DNA? Is that really what your fan base wants to get behind? You have to ask these questions. If diversification is a strategy for you, like it is for a lot of top orgs, like I mentioned, this also comes into play. You want to be able to market to lots of different areas of the esports demographic, because esports itself obviously is a smaller niche of the gaming universe. And the bigger the metrics you are, the bigger you can build your fan base, the better you can market your sponsors' products, you can move your merchandise, like I mentioned earlier. So being in different games and being diversified, like investing, is usually a smart strategy. But you have to make sure it kind of fits into your DNA and understand what your diversification strategies are. Also, understand your fan base's DNA. If you run a World of Warcraft guild, and 98% of your fans are primarily interested in World of Warcraft, is it really smart to invest a bunch of money to go into, say, Crossfire or Call of Duty or whatever the case might be? You have to ask these questions. You have to ask, can we diversify and expand our fan base, or will this alienate the fan base we already have, and we're better investing those funds in a game that's more similar to what our DNA is and what our fan base DNA is? And lastly, number 5, regionality. A lot of people don't necessarily think about this because all teams want to be these global behemoths and be known around the world, which I think is a good goal. But you also have to understand your region. for example, in Asia, Crossfire is the biggest FPS, where in Europe and North America, it's Counter-Strike Go. So you have to understand, hey, if I go into Crossfire as an American team, are people going to care? Are people in Asia really going to adopt my brand, or is it just not going to fit and I'm going to pour money down the drain? And that goes with any game. Understand what region you're primarily marketing to. Understand what region maybe is your next step to market to. So if I opened an office in Asia and I wanted to have an FPS to start marketing to that region, I'd probably go with Crossfire, for example, over Counter-Strike Go. So you have to understand the regionality as well. Again, I stress again, everybody does this a little bit differently. There is no playbook. There is no hard fixed roadmap. It is much more of an art form than a science. But hey, if you want to start running an esports team and you're like, what games do we get into? Or you're a pro thinking, I don't even know what game I should focus my pro career on. These are some of the things guys like me look at when we're deciding what games to pick up. Thank you very much for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comment. Please click subscribe below, and we'll see you on the next video.